In June 2020, one of Europe's most celebrated tech companies collapsed overnight. A company once valued at over $24 billion admitted that nearly $2 billion in cash never existed. This wasn't just an accounting mistake, it was one of the biggest corporate frauds in modern history. A scandal that fooled investors, regulators, auditors, and even the German government. This is the story of Wirecard, how a fintech darling turned into a financial black hole. Hey, if you enjoy content like this, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. There's always more coming your way. It all came crashing down on June 18, 2020. Wirecard announced that it could not account for 1.9 billion euros, money that was supposedly sitting safely in two banks in the Philippines. Auditors from Ernst & Young, after years of signing off on Wirecard's financial statements, suddenly refused to certify the company's 2019 accounts. Wirecard CEO Marcus Braun resigned within hours, and within a week, the company filed for insolvency. A fintech once held as Germany's answer to Silicon Valley was gone. But to understand how this happened, we need to go back to the beginning. Wirecard was founded in 1999 at the height of the dot-com bubble. At first, it wasn't anything special, just a small company processing payments for online gambling and adult websites. But under Marcus Braun, an ambitious Austrian with sleek suits and the taste of bold promises, Wirecard began to reinvent itself. By the late 2000s, Wirecard was pitching itself as a leader in digital payments. It expanded aggressively, buying companies across Asia and claiming it could compete with giants like PayPal, Visa, and MasterCard. In 2018, Wirecard reached the pinnacle of success. It replaced Commerzbank in Germany's prestigious DAX 30 index. The list of the country's top companies. To many Germans, Wirecard wasn't just a business. It was a symbol that Europe could produce its own global tech champions. But behind the glossy image, cracks were already showing. As early as 2008, journalists and short sellers accused Wirecard of falsifying accounts. The company always denied everything, insisting the critics were spreading lies to profit from falling share prices. The Financial Times became one of Wirecard's loudest critics. Reporters like Dan Macron kept publishing investigations that suggested Wirecard was inflating revenue, hiding losses, and using shady third-party partners in Asia to create fake business. Each time, Wirecard fought back fiercely. They threatened lawsuits, hired private investigators, and even got German regulators on their side. Instead of investigating Wirecard, regulators launched probes into journalists and investors who dared to question the company. For years, this aggressive defense worked. Wirecard's stock price kept rising, and Marcus Braun was treated like a visionary. So, where did the missing money come from? Or rather, where did it go? Wirecard claimed that a large chunk of its revenue came from operations in Asia. But instead of running those businesses directly, it said local partners were processing payments on its behalf. Here is the trick. These partners didn't actually exist in any meaningful way. They were shell companies set up to create illusion of business activity. For years, Wirecard told auditors that billions of euros were sitting in escrow accounts in the Philippines. In reality, those accounts never held the money. When auditors finally called the banks directly, the banks said, "We have no relationship with Wirecard." It was smoke and mirrors, a fraud that only unraveled when someone bothered to check the vault. How did this fraud last so long? Part of the answer lies with Germany's regulators. BaFin, the country's financial watchdog, seemed more interested in protecting Wirecard's reputation than investigating it. When journalists exposed suspicious accounting, BaFin accused them of market manipulation. When short sellers bet against Wirecard, BaFin banned shorting the stock. And then there were the auditors, Ernst & Young, EY. For over a decade, EY signed off on Wirecard's financial statements despite red flags. They never independently verified those Philippine accounts until it was too late. The institutions that were supposed to protect investors failed. In the end, it wasn't regulators or auditors who exposed Wirecard. It was journalists and whistleblowers the Financial Times kept publishing. Despite legal threats and smear campaigns, whistleblowers inside the company leaked documents that proved fraud. And eventually, truth won out. But it wasn't without risk. Some whistleblowers report harassment and surveillance. Wirecard's defenders accused them of being part of an international conspiracy. This was more than a financial scandal. It was a battle over truth itself. By June 2020, the lie was unsustainable. Marcus Brown was arrested for fraud, embezzlement, and market manipulation. But the most mysterious figure was Jan Marszalek, Wirecard's chief operating officer. When the scandal broke, Marszalek disappeared. He was last tracked flying to Belarus, then possibly to Russia. To this day, he remains one of Europe's most wanted fugitives. Wirecard stock, once worth over $24 billion, crashed to almost nothing. Investors lost fortunes, employees lost their jobs, and Germany's reputation as a financial hub took a huge hit. The Wirecard scandal was more than just a corporate fraud. It was a wake-up call. It showed how easy it is for hype and nationalism to blind investors and regulators. It exposed weaknesses in global auditing systems, and it proved that fraud on this scale can thrive when people stop asking hard questions. Today, lawsuits are still ongoing. Regulators promised reforms, and investors remain cautious. But the biggest lesson is simple. If something looks too good to be true, it probably is. Wirecard began as a small payment processor and rose to become one of Europe's biggest tech stars. But in the end, It was a house of cards, a company built on lies that fooled governments, investors, and auditors. The scandal wasn't just about $2 billion. It was about trust and how quickly that trust can be destroyed. This was the Wirecard scandal, the story of how a fintech dream turned into Europe's greatest corporate fraud. Thanks for watching. If this video grabbed your attention, subscribe and stick around. The next story is just around the corner.